at least in the earlier times, there was the decency of agreeing on the rules of the debate. There was the decency of agreeing what shall be the terms of the debate and what metrics would be applied to decide who has won and who has lost. Today, that's no more the case. It's a question of competing narratives. It's a question of who can shout the loudest, who has access to the best megaphones available, who has the most prevalent ecosystem in order for him to reach out to the maximum number of people. What does this tell you? That a civilized debate perhaps is a concept of a bygone era, a debate where people can at least admit or concede defeat is not possible anymore because neither party will agree that it's wrong. That's the reality of the day we live in. Why is this relevant? It's relevant to the topic at hand for the simple reason that according to me, in order for us to usher an Indic Renaissance, unless and until we dig deep into our own dialectical traditions, our own traditions of debating, our own intellectual traditions, we will constantly find ourselves floundering when faced with a motivated opposition. See, each time I go and address a certain audience on the topic, I've realized that there is a certain degree of despair and despondence. There's always the constant thing that I get to hear, they seem to have access to a better media ecosystem. They seem to have access to better resources. They seem to have patronage from the best of people possible and from the powers that be. Because we don't have any of these things, our voices are not heard. And that seems to be the constant refrain in each discussion that I've been whenever I've spoken of an Indic Renaissance. Why is an Indic Renaissance necessary? What do we need to do to usher an Indic Renaissance is more or less the subject of the topic today. Let me just start off with some of my own experiences and then we'll talk about this. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to be a part of several litigations which have political and religious ramifications. Starting with the movement to free temples from the clutches of state control. I've been recently inducted into the team for the Ram Janmabhoomi case as well. And we are also leading from the forefront the litigation relating to deportation of Rohingyas. And on each of these topics, I find that anyone who takes a position which is different from the position taken by the other side, let me not name the other side for a moment, each time we take a position which is at loggerheads with theirs, we are bound to be branded and we are bound to be silenced. And the moment I'm given a certain brand, whether or not the point of view that I put forth has any merit or not, people will stop listening to me. It's come to a point where branding has become a precursor to silencing. So if I write the book, no matter how scholastically deep it may be, no matter how much of research I may have undertaken, the moment I'm told that he comes from a certain faction, he comes from a certain ideological backdrop, he represents a certain worldview, he represents a certain point of view, that will be the end of your perception as far as my work is concerned. You will not see whether the work stands on its own 2 feet as far as its merits are concerned. So in a situation such as this, what do you do? How do you make your voices heard? Why do you need to be heard in the first place? It's for a different reason. I would have actually, if let's say this kind of a poster had been used in JNU today for a similar discussion, what do you think would have been the reactions in JNU today? How do you think the audience would have reacted to it? This would have been branded a right-wing discussion. This would have been branded a right-of-center discussion. This would have been branded a communal discussion. And I would actually have law and order issues or perhaps even safety issues to deal with instead of focusing on the debate. Why has it come to this point? It's because this. I have always found in the limited experience that I have dealt with people of, let's say, the Indic consciousness or the Indic side of the society, that while we crib and whine about everything that is wrong with our side, our tendency to put in action our thought, our tendency to step on the ground and to do something about it is almost always lacking. There is a serious mismatch in the depth that we attribute to the philosophical foundations of our forefathers and our initiative or our inclination to live and practice those ideas in the first place. So for us, most of these topics have been relegated to post-dinner katha karakshepam as far as I'm concerned. Beyond that, those topics have not acquired any significance. Beyond that, those topics do not find any kind of traction. Beyond that, we don't seem to be acting on any of those ideas. If we have to usher an Indic Renaissance, we need to understand why do we need it in the first place. Let me try and hit the nail on the head and try and make the audience as uncomfortable as possible on this topic. One of our principal positions in the Rohingya petition is to say that this particular group poses a certain threat as far as India is concerned. And there are reasons to believe that if these people are allowed to continue to live in this country, there is bound to be a serious demographic explosion. And we've already seen the consequences of a skewed demographic in states like Assam and in Jammu and Kashmir. And we are now welcoming this problem, we are now importing this problem, and we want to rehabilitate and settle this problem using the state's resources, which could lead to a problem. The moment we set foot in the court with this kind of a petition, within 4 to 5 days, we had a host of articles written against us in the Hindu, in the Wire, in the Scroll, in practically every publication possible, saying that this is representative of a narrow mindset, this is representative of a fascist mindset, this is representative of a conservative mindset. We were branded Sanghis for all practical purposes. Fortunately, since it happens to be a court of law, I have a right of audience, I have a right to expect the court to hear me out, and therefore, I hope that my point of view will be heard before I'm dismissed. But outside of the court, in the world of public opinion, in the court of public opinion, my point of view has already been distorted beyond recognition. It has already been destroyed beyond recognition because most people think that anyone who speaks for deputation of these people is bound to be a communal fascist. That's the reality of the day.